Good morning, Willowbrook. Today we're in Job chapter 1. Let me ask a question. Why do bad things happen to good people? What about the times when you're doing everything you know to do and you're serving God faithfully as you know how to serve Him, and suffering still happens? We're going to learn about these questions in the next few days of our daily devotional together. The book of Job, I believe, is one of the oldest books in the Bible. No one knows who wrote it. Historically, the events that occurred, I think, happened during the age of the patriarchs. The lifestyle of Job and his family is described like that of Abraham. There's no reference of any kind in the book of Job to the Israelites, to the nation of Israel, or to their worship. We find no references to the law of Moses, the tabernacle, the priesthood. God speaks directly to Job just as he would to Noah and Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We also see Job offering his own sacrifices and sacrifices for his friends. He's not taken with the priests at the tabernacle. And this implies that the story of Job happened before the giving of the law. Also, look at Job's age. As we read this chapter, he already has 10 grown children, as well as great wealth and fame. He also lives 140 years after the main events of this story, and he has 10 more children. Now, these kinds of things are most common during the period of the patriarchs, but are unheard of even shortly after the giving of the law. You see, the issue of suffering in the book of Job is to demonstrate the authority of God. A major question that we must ask is, do we trust God to do right even when it does not make sense to us? Now, Job's a real man. He's mentioned by Ezekiel, and he's talked about by Ezekiel as one of the great 3 men of the Old Testament, along with Noah and with Daniel. He's also mentioned in the book of James, where James talks about his patience and endurance. But it's also important to see the character of Job. That's one of the most important things about him is his godliness. He feared God, and everyone knew him because of that. He was blameless. And a lot of people think that blameless means that he was sinless, but blameless and sinless is not the same thing. You can still be sinful and still be blameless. If you deal with your sin the way God tells you to do with it, God still sees you as you confess and ask for forgiveness as blameless. This chapter is talking about a complete man, a man who knew God and saw God's hand in everything he did. He's also very prosperous. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters, plus many servants. He had 7,000 sheep, 3,000 camel, 50 yoke of oxen, 500 female donkeys, not counting the male donkeys. A large family with many children indicated rich blessing from God. Now, this can help us understand how this suffering would contrast to what Job was accustomed to. When people live poor all their lives, they become accustomed to living without. They kind of resign themselves like, I'm never going to have much. But someone who is richly blessed sometimes experiences a lot of shock when all of a sudden trouble is just coming at them and suffering in an equal amount. And the contrast between blessing and suffering would just add a lot of questions into Job's life. Now, also notice how close a family they are. The children were apparently grown and married, but they enjoy one another's presence. They would attend each other's feasts. And as if they did something wrong at the feast, Job would get up early every morning and offer a sacrifice for his children. And we're told that he did this regularly. The fact that he got up early shows his dedication. As a father, he is responsible to teach the family about God, to lead them in serving God, and he would rebuke the family when they were wrong. The phrase that we see throughout this, cursed God in their hearts, is like a theme of the book. It's the test that Satan puts on Job. Job, will you curse God in your heart? Now, Job did not offer sin offerings for his kids. He offered burnt offerings. They're different offerings. And the burnt offering was because he knew his children needed spiritual help most when things were going well, not when things were totally falling apart. Job knew that the pressure to deny God comes most strongly when things are going great for us. Job was concerned about his children's well-being. And just because our children leave home that does not mean that we as parents no longer have a sense of concern for them. Godly parents continue to pray and to seek God's blessings on their children all their lives. Now Satan enters that story, and we see that he's clearly fallen from heaven, but he still has access to God. Now this truth is there, so we're not going to be confused about the power of Satan in this story. Satan is not the equivalent to God. We understand from the start that God is in control of all things. Nothing ever takes God by surprise, and nothing goes beyond his word, including Satan. God is not just some man that we can call and influence or command, and he's not like a butler who's ready to run and do whatever we command. Now, Satan is real. Satan does not seek our good no matter what he may pretend. And since he works by deception, a lot of people do not see his real evil. And we surely don't see when he's working to mislead us. But we can be sure Satan is always working to cause our spiritual downfall, just as God is always working for our good. Satan believes that we serve God only for the blessings that God can give us in this lifetime. But we're going to turn from God when he doesn't give us those blessings. Satan, he discounts that any of us would serve God out of love for God or out of respect for God, that God deserves our service simply because of who he is. You know what? Satan, not God, is the ultimate cause of suffering on the earth. Satan brings temptation, but God always uses that temptation, that struggle, that suffering for the ultimate good of those of us who are faithful to him. We may suffer, but God will bless us in the end. Hopefully, we'll see through this that even though trials do not quickly go away, and some of them drain every bit of our strength and our faith, that God is faithful, we can trust him, he is here for us, and that we need him every hour. I look forward to seeing the other ministers as they explain this to you. See you tomorrow, Willowbrook.